For eons, the galaxy had functioned in an uneasy equilibrium. The Exilarians, once the greatest minds of the galaxy, had perfected the art of harnessing energy and manipulating the very fabric of spacetime. Their technological prowess had earned them the title of the galaxy's intellectual elite, and their influence was felt in every sector. The Uruk, a barbaric race, thrived on conquest, expanding their empire through sheer force. Their fleets were vast, their warriors ruthless, and their influence terrifying. Then there were the Verothians, the peacemakers of the galaxy, known for their negotiation skills and ability to broker treaties between the most volatile species. They had witnessed countless wars, but they had also seen countless peace accords. And then there were the humans, an insignificant species, isolated in a small corner of the galaxy. Little more than an afterthought, they were considered primitive, developing technologies at a sluggish pace, unaware of the grander workings of the universe. The Galactic Council rarely discussed humans. Their space was considered a backwater, their technology quaint but harmless. The Council's most pressing concerns were the power struggles between the Uruk and Ilarians, and the diplomatic minefields set by the Verothians. That was until the disturbance began. At first, it was nothing more than a strange fluctuation in the cosmic signals, a ripple in the vast ocean of space. The Exilarians were the first to notice, their sensors picking up an anomaly on the outer edge of the galaxy. Something was interfering with their finely tuned instruments. Their first assumption was a malfunction, perhaps a rogue black hole or an unexpected shift in gravitational forces. But as the signals grew stronger, their concern deepened. The Exilarians deployed a fleet of observation vessels to investigate. They weren't alone in their curiosity. Other species, sensing something unsettling, turned their eyes to the stars. The Verothians sent their diplomats to investigate, hoping to diffuse what seemed to be a cosmic mystery. The Uruk, ever eager to seize any advantage, set out with their warships, determined to stake a claim to whatever power the disturbance might reveal. Yet, despite their best efforts, none of them could decipher what was happening. The energy readings were impossible to explain. The anomaly pulsed with a strange, otherworldly rhythm, as if the cosmos itself was holding its breath. Then the message came. It arrived like a jolt of electricity, echoing across every communications network in the galaxy. It was blunt, chilling, and completely unexpected. This is humanity. Prepare for your reckoning. The words were simple, but they carried weight. The galaxy's most powerful species, who had barely spared a thought for humans in the past, now found themselves scrambling for answers. What was this message? Who sent it? How could a race as small as humanity, with no known intergalactic influence, broadcast such a bold and chilling warning? The Exilarians, ever analytical, immediately began trying to decrypt the message. But their advanced algorithms couldn't crack the code. The Uruk, on the other hand, scoffed. It was a threat, they believed, a challenge to their power. The Uruk warlords began preparing their ships, eager to stamp out this insolent message. And the Verothians, they didn't know whether to respond with diplomacy or fear. For the first time in their long history, they found themselves without a clear course of action. But before anyone could decide what to do next, something unimaginable happened. The ripple in the cosmos expanded, like the first wave of a storm, and the silence of the galaxy was shattered. Something was coming, something that would change everything. It was humanity, and they were coming for more than just attention. Across the galaxy, the message lingered in the air like a thunderclap, a declaration that couldn't be ignored. The words echoed through every communication channel, striking fear and confusion into the hearts of the galaxy's inhabitants. This is humanity. Prepare for your reckoning. The Exilarians, the galaxy's foremost experts in energy manipulation and cosmic phenomena, had been the first to receive the transmission. Their leaders, sitting in their gleaming citadel at the heart of their empire, scrambled to analyze the strange data. They deployed their finest minds to decode the message, but their efforts were futile. The encryption was unlike anything they had ever encountered. The signal seemed to twist and pulse, resisting all attempts to understand it. "Impossible," one of the lead scientists muttered, staring at the screen in disbelief. "This technology, it's not of this galaxy." Meanwhile, the Uruk, ever the warriors, eager to show their superiority, dismissed the message as a bluff. Humans. Their warlords laughed, their deep, guttural voices reverberating across their warships. A primitive race still learning how to use fire. Let them make their threats. We will crush them, as we have crushed all others. The Uruk were already preparing for war, their massive fleets lining up in orbit, ready to rush toward the coordinates where the message had originated. They believed it to be a testing ground for an enemy they had yet to understand, but they were certain of their victory. No race, not even the mysterious one that had dared to broadcast such a message, could stand against the sheer might of the Uruk. On the other side of the galaxy, the Verothians, known for their peaceful nature and diplomatic skill, responded differently. The Council sent a high-ranking ambassador to investigate the source of the transmission, hoping to diffuse whatever tensions the humans might have stirred. A sleek Verothian ship, equipped with the finest communication and negotiation tools, set off for the coordinates. Their hope was simple. If humanity was truly reaching out, they could appeal to their better nature and prevent any conflict. But as the hours passed, the unease spread. The strange energy readings from the anomaly grew stronger. The galaxy's communication systems started to flicker and distort, causing widespread disruption in interstellar transmissions. As the anomaly expanded, it was clear that it was more than just a simple fluctuation. Something, or someone, was pushing into their space with unrelenting force. Then came the second transmission, a deeper, more resonant message, cutting through all channels and all systems at once. A voice, human, calm, yet undeniably authoritative, spoke. "This is humanity. We are not here to ask. We are here to take. Your future is in our hands now. Bow or face the consequences." The words hit like a sledgehammer. The Verothians, ever the peacekeepers, were stunned. The Kylarians' cool composure cracked. Even the Uruk, normally confident in their strength, began to pause, their warlords suddenly unsure. Something about the message carried an edge of finality that made even the most hardened military leaders question their next move. And then, as if to punctuate the threat, the anomaly flared once more, sending a shockwave that rattled the fabric of space itself. It wasn't just the message that had arrived. It was the presence of something vast, powerful, and incomprehensible. The galaxy began to feel the undeniable weight of it, a cold, unyielding pressure that chilled even the bravest hearts. And still, humanity had not shown itself. No ship had been seen. No human vessel had yet crossed the threshold into the galaxy. Yet every species across the stars knew one thing now. This wasn't just a threat. Humanity wasn't asking for permission. Humanity was coming. And no one, no matter how powerful, was prepared for what came next. The galaxy stood still. The silence that followed the last transmission was deafening, like the calm before a storm. Every species, Kylarians, Uruk, Verothians, held their collective breath, waiting for the next move. Would the humans reveal their fleet? Was it truly as formidable as their messages suggested, or had they merely been bluffing? But the galaxy was unprepared for what happened next. In a single, breathtaking moment, everything changed. The fabric of space itself seemed to twist and shudder, as if reality itself had been torn open. The stars blinked out in quick succession, their light consumed by a vast, dark presence. An overwhelming wave of energy rippled outward, bending the laws of physics and time, leaving every ship and station in the galaxy frozen in place. Sensors failed, engines cut out. Communication systems were overloaded with static. Then, as quickly as the anomaly had appeared, it vanished, revealing the impossible. A fleet. But not just any fleet. The sky. No, The entire galaxy was suddenly filled with the silhouettes of 700,000 human vessels, each one a towering monolith of sleek, dark metal and pulsating energy. The ships were unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Colossal and intricate, their designs a perfect blend of functionality and unimaginable technology. No one knew where they had come from. One moment, there was nothing. The next, they filled every corner of the galaxy, cutting across star systems like an unstoppable wave. Each ship was equipped with advanced weapons and shields, technology far surpassing anything the galaxy's most advanced species could ever fathom. The ships floated silently in formation, each perfectly aligned, a display of military precision, so perfect it seemed to defy logic. The sheer scale of the fleet was staggering, an overwhelming force that instantly put every other fleet to shame. Across the galaxy, panic spread like wildfire. The Exilarians, who had spent centuries studying the manipulation of energy, tried to analyze the ships, but their sensors were useless. Their once reliable systems flickered and died under the sheer magnitude of the human ship's presence. Every attempt to decode their technology failed. The Uruk, with their immense pride and thirst for conquest, were the first to react with anger. They rallied their forces, ready to strike down these invaders. Yet, as they prepared their weapons, their systems, once the most powerful in the galaxy, stuttered to a halt. The Uruk fleet, hundreds of ships strong, was completely immobilized. It wasn't a power failure. It was as if the very fabric of space had been twisted to freeze them in place. For the first time in their history, the Uruk were helpless. The Varothians, known for their skill in diplomacy, were the next to act. They sent their ships to the human fleet, hoping for a peaceful resolution. Their emissaries were skilled, calm, and persuasive, but when they reached the human fleet's location, they found no greeting, no signals of welcome, just the terrifying stillness of 700,000 ships, waiting. The humans had not fired a shot. They had not made a single move, yet their presence was enough to dominate the galaxy in an instant. No one spoke. No one moved. The galaxy, frozen in space, could only wonder what humanity's next step would be. In the heart of the fleet, the human command center stood as calm as ever. And in the middle of it all, one voice echoed through the entire galaxy, crisp and authoritative. This is humanity. We are here to claim what is ours. Prepare yourselves. The message was clear, and it sent a shiver down the spine of every living being who heard it. The humans had arrived, not with diplomacy, not with empty threats, but with the undeniable weight of their power. And the galaxy was left to wonder, could they stop what had come? The galaxy, once vibrant and bustling with life, now trembled under the shadow of humanity's arrival. No one had seen it coming. The sudden appearance of the 700,000 ships, their dark silhouettes filling the stars, was a spectacle so overwhelming that it seemed to freeze time itself. Every race, every faction, held their collective breath, waiting for the inevitable, something they could neither understand nor resist. The Uruk, the most aggressive and war-hungry species in the galaxy, were the first to react. Their warlords rallied their fleet, eager to demonstrate their might. But they found themselves paralyzed, their massive warships locked in place, unable to move or fire a single shot. Their sensors were useless, their systems compromised in ways they could not comprehend. The Uruk's fury turned to panic as they realized the vast fleet before them was not just a force of power, it was something far beyond their understanding. The Varothians, known for their calm and diplomatic nature, took a different approach. They sent an envoy, a high-ranking ambassador, aboard a sleek, peaceful vessel, hoping to open a channel of communication. Their message was simple: we seek peace, we seek understanding. The Varothians had lived for centuries, mediating peace treaties and brokering alliances between races. Surely, they thought, they could negotiate with this mysterious power. But when the Varothian ship reached the center of the human fleet, it was met with complete silence. No greeting, no acknowledgement. just the immense presence of the ships, standing still and silent, their cold engines humming with an unsettling power. A transmission came through, but it was not from the human ambassador or any form of diplomatic representative. It was simply one voice, deep and authoritative, cutting through the comms like a knife. This is humanity. We do not negotiate. We do not beg. The message was blunt, unmistakable, and filled with an icy finality. The Virothian ambassador, a seasoned negotiator who had brokered peace between the galaxy's fiercest enemies, felt a cold sweat break out on their brow. They had never encountered a species so utterly unyielding. The humans, it seemed, were not interested in talks, nor in diplomatic pleasantries. They had come to impose their will on the galaxy, and they made no attempt to disguise it. Then, humanity made their demand, delivered with the same chilling efficiency. We offer you a choice: accept our terms, or face complete annihilation. For a moment, there was stunned silence across the galaxy. No one could believe what they had just heard. The idea of extinction was not one that had crossed their minds. The galaxy was accustomed to war, to occasional strife, but never to the idea of a species so powerful that resistance was not just futile, it was unthinkable. The humans' terms were laid out clearly, without hesitation. We demand complete disarmament of all military forces. No more wars, no more violence. The galaxy will be united under one banner, ours. You will submit to our leadership, and you will follow our vision for peace. The message was shocking in its simplicity, yet devastating in its implication. To the galaxy's leaders, it was unthinkable. The Exilarians, the architects of peace in their own way, knew that such a proposal was not just a political maneuver, it was a statement of absolute dominance. And the Uruk, they were furious, howling in outrage at the mere suggestion that they should kneel to anyone, especially a species they had long considered beneath them. The Virothians, however, could not deny the underlying truth. Humanity had come with a power so overwhelming, so beyond anything they had ever faced, that the idea of resistance was not just reckless, it was suicidal. Their diplomatic channels had failed. No one had an answer, and for the first time in millennia, the galaxy's greatest minds were left silent and uncertain. As the demand echoed across every communication network, the reality began to sink in. The galaxy was on the verge of a change unlike anything it had ever known. Humanity, a species once seen as insignificant, had arrived to claim the stars. And their demand was not negotiable. The galaxy held its breath. The chilling finality of humanity's demand reverberated across every star system, filling every species with a sense of dread that hadn't been felt in centuries. The Exilarians, once the galaxy's supreme intellectuals, found themselves utterly blindsided by the unexpected arrival of the human fleet, with its unfathomable technology and overwhelming power. They had studied energy manipulation, mastered space-time physics, and bent the fabric of reality to their will. But nothing in their vast knowledge could explain what had just appeared before them. The Uruk, notorious for their brutal strength, were paralyzed by the sheer power of the human fleet. Their warships, once the terror of the galaxy, were locked in place, powerless to retaliate. For the first time in history, a force greater than their own might was present, and they could do nothing but seethe in helpless fury. The warlords who had once believed in the inevitability of their supremacy now stared into the abyss, uncertain whether they had any role left to play in the galaxy. But despite the looming terror of humanity's power, there were those who still resisted. A coalition of rebel factions, made up of disenfranchised warlords, pirates, and rogue scientists, refused to bow to the human demand. These outcasts had no hope of matching the humans' technology, but they had something that no fleet of ships could counter: desperation. "We will not be enslaved," one rebel leader, an alien from a species known as the Corvette, declared in front of the gathering of insurgent leaders. "We may not have the strength of the Uruk, nor the wisdom of the Exilarians, but we have willpower. We will fight. We have no choice. In response, the humans, unmoved by threats or defiance, sent a clear message. There was no negotiating. There was no mercy. A single human vessel, sleek and imperious, flew toward the rebel stronghold at the edge of the galaxy. As it approached, the rebels braced themselves for battle. They had set up the most powerful weapons they could build in their desperation. Massive ion cannons, energy fields designed to disrupt gravitational forces, and cloaking devices to conceal their fleets from detection. What they didn't anticipate was the simple, devastating display of power from the human ship. Without a word, the human vessel released a single, soft pulse of energy into the heart of the rebel fleet. The rebel ships, no matter their technology, were frozen in space, unable to move, unable to retaliate. The ships, once brimming with weapons, fell silent. The energy pulse wasn't an explosion. It was a precise, suffocating force that neutralized every offensive system in an instant. The Corva leader, watching this unfold, felt his heart drop into his stomach. The pulse wasn't destructive in the traditional sense. It didn't obliterate the fleet. It simply disabled it, rendering it useless. The rebels were trapped, their ships floating aimlessly in space, unable to even attempt escape. The human ship's captain broadcasted a message. This is the price of defiance. You cannot win. Accept your fate. The silence that followed was heavier than the sound of the deadened ships in space. The rebel leaders could only stare, speechless, at the unparalleled might of the humans. There was no fight left in them. The galaxy watched in stunned horror as the rebels surrendered, their defiance crushed under the weight of humanity's power. As their ships were disabled and their leaders captured, it became clear humanity had not come to negotiate, nor to coexist. They had come to dominate, and they would not be swayed. Back at the Galactic Council, panic spread like wildfire. Leaders from every corner of the galaxy, once confident in their strength, now questioned their future. The Exilarians, the Verothians, and even the proud Uruk. None could deny it any longer. Humanity had proven their supremacy. They weren't just a fleeting threat. They were an unstoppable force. And as the human ships began to move closer, the galaxy realized something that would change the course of history forever. Resistance was not only futile, it was a death sentence. The true test of strength had just begun, and humanity had already proven they were the ones who would shape the future. The galaxy had descended into a kind of stunned paralysis, unable to comprehend the sheer weight of humanity's arrival. The entire known universe seemed to hold its breath, as once mighty empires and powerful factions were rendered powerless, staring into the void of their own helplessness. With the rebellion crushed so swiftly, it was clear that resistance to humanity was no longer a viable option. But even as the galaxy's leaders scrambled to reconcile their place in this new order, the human fleet continued to move with precision and purpose. One by one, humanity's ships anchored themselves in key star systems, their vast presence casting a shadow that stretched across entire planets. The message had been made clear. No corner of the galaxy would remain untouched. The once proud Xylarians, who had prided themselves on their intelligence and technological mastery, now found themselves cornered. Their once imposing fleets were ineffective against the human ships, and their command centers were filled with frantic strategists who knew they could no longer outthink the humans. Their attempts at countering humanity's technology had failed spectacularly. The delicate equations they once used to manipulate energy and space-time were irrelevant now. The humans had transcended the very physics they had spent centuries perfecting. For the first time in their long history, the Exilarians faced a dilemma that even their immense intellects could not solve. How could they outmaneuver a species whose technology bent the laws of reality itself? The answer was not what they had hoped for. The only course of action left to them was the same as that of every other faction: submission. "We must negotiate," a Xylarian counselor said, her voice trembling. "If we do not, they will eradicate us. There is no other option." Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the Uruk warlords had come to a similar conclusion. Their warriors, so accustomed to fighting and dominating, had never before encountered an enemy that could strip them of their power so effortlessly. Their entire empire had been built on strength, on the idea that no one could stand against them. But humanity had proven them wrong. The Uruk warlords now faced a bitter truth. If they continued to resist, they would not only lose everything, they would cease to exist. In an effort to maintain some semblance of control, the Uruk chose the only path left open to them. They, too, sent an emissary to the human fleet, offering a form of surrender. The warlords hoped, perhaps naively, that if they presented themselves as allies, they might retain some autonomy in this new order. The Varothians, the galaxy's peacekeepers, had long been the neutral party. But now, even they were beginning to feel the weight of the human presence. Their ships, once able to navigate the most tense diplomatic crisis with ease, now found themselves powerless in the face of the overwhelming might of humanity. For the first time, the Varothians couldn't broker peace. They could only submit. "We offer our full compliance," the Varothian ambassadors said, addressing the human fleet with an air of finality. "We will join your coalition and follow your leadership as the others have. There is no hope of resisting." The human fleet moved without hesitation, absorbing each faction into their fold, imposing their will in the most methodical way imaginable. Their ships anchored over key worlds, turning planetary systems into extensions of their growing empire. They didn't ask for fealty. They didn't ask for loyalty. They demanded it, and there was nothing the galaxy's inhabitants could do to stop it. The only thing left for the galaxy's leaders was to accept that the age of humanity had begun, and the future of the stars would now belong to them. As the last resistance crumbled, one final message echoed across the galaxy, piercing through every communication channel. "We have claimed the stars. We will rebuild this galaxy, not in your image, but in ours. Prepare yourselves for the future." The message was simple, but its weight was unbearable. Every race, every civilization that had once called the galaxy home, now stood in the shadow of humanity's might. They could no longer fight back. They could only submit or perish. Humanity had shown the galaxy the true meaning of power, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The galaxy, for the first time in its long and storied existence, came to a standstill. The stars themselves seemed to flicker out, caught in the overwhelming presence of the 700,000 human vessels that now filled every corner of the cosmos. Space bent under the weight of their arrival, and the sheer magnitude of the human fleet sent waves of energy through the fabric of reality, rippling across star systems. Not a single communication channel was left untouched. Messages of fear, desperation, and confusion flooded the galactic frequencies. The once proud Xylarians, now brought to their knees, issued a final plea for mercy. The Uruk, who had prided themselves on their unrivaled might, trembled in fear, and even the Varothians, who had dedicated their entire existence to peace and diplomacy, found themselves unable to form a coherent strategy for dealing with the unstoppable human force. But it wasn't just the galactic powers who felt the weight of humanity's might. Smaller races, once thriving in their isolated systems, found their quiet worlds disturbed by the silent, immovable presence of the human fleet. The outposts of the peaceful Navarans, the mining colonies of the Denali, and even the once hidden societies of the Quillians, all were now directly under humanity's gaze. No corner of the galaxy was safe from their overwhelming presence. And then, just as the last signs of resistance seemed to crumble, humanity made its next move. The fleet dispersed. It wasn't a sudden explosion of movement, nor a flurry of firepower. Instead, the fleet divided with cold, mechanical precision, each human ship moving with perfect synchronization to position itself over key worlds, including those that had resisted the longest. The galaxy watched, helpless, as entire star systems were surrounded. For the first time in recorded history, the concept of sovereignty, the idea that a world could remain autonomous and independent, became meaningless. Humanity had made it clear that no race, no government, No faction would be allowed to exist outside their control. In the heart of the human fleet, a command ship hovered above the burning remains of a distant star, its dark hull gleaming under the cold light of space. A single figure stood at the ship's bridge, watching as the galaxy's last pockets of resistance began to fall. The figure's voice, smooth and cold, resonated across the galaxy. The time of submission has ended. There will be no further resistance. As the voice of humanity spoke, the stars themselves seemed to quiver in response. From their positions above key planets, the human ships sent signals that radiated through every communication channel, activating previously dormant systems on a planetary scale. It was the first stage of their conquest: control of the galaxy's infrastructure. Energy grids across the galaxy began to flicker and pulse, their systems overridden by the humans. The once independent star stations, spaceports, and industrial centers fell under the silent reign of humanity's technology. The fleet didn't fire a single shot. They didn't need to. The galaxy was already under their control. The act of assimilation had begun. The Exilarians, watching from their citadel, could only stare as their systems were hijacked, their energy reserves redirected to humanity's warships. The Uruk, who had once vowed to fight to the death, found their fleets frozen in space once more, their weapons useless. The Varothians, despite their best diplomatic efforts, were now forced to watch as humanity's influence spread, a cold inevitability that could not be stopped. And then, as if to further cement their dominance, humanity revealed its final and most terrifying act. Their technology could not just control machinery, it could control entire populations. With the flick of a switch, the human fleet activated their influence over the minds of the galaxy's lesser races. Non-compliant species began to hear voices in their minds, commands, instructions, promises of safety. But these weren't just whispers. They were orders. "We are your masters now. Obey." This was not a request. It was a command. And with it, the galaxy's last chance at resistance evaporated, leaving nothing but the cold certainty that humanity had won. For the first time, the entire galaxy understood the true meaning of power. Humanity had arrived not to conquer with war, but to impose a rule of order, dominance, and absolute control. The galaxy was theirs now, and there was no escape from their cold, unyielding grip. The final remnants of resistance were extinguished, and the galaxy fell silent, eerily so. The once vibrant cosmos, a swirling dance of myriad civilizations and species, now stood in a state of unnerving stillness, held captive by humanity's overwhelming presence. Where there had been rebellion, there was now compliance. Where there had been pride, there was submission. The galaxy, once fragmented by war and chaos, had been brought to heel in a way no one could have predicted. Humanity had not just conquered, they had transformed. The newly established human-dominated council began the long and delicate work of restructuring galactic order. One by one, the former leaders of each civilization were called into the command centers of humanity's ships, each meeting a stark reminder of the power that had swept through the galaxy like a tidal wave. The Exilarians, once supreme intellects, sat in a quiet, humbling silence, their brilliant minds now bound by humanity's superior technology. The Uruk warlords, who had once crushed entire planets with their might, now looked to humanity for orders, their pride crushed beneath the weight of their loss. And the Varothians, who had long championed the virtues of peace, now realized that the peace they had known was nothing more than a fleeting illusion. The human representatives made it clear, this is the new order. Peace will be maintained, on our terms. Humanity's methods of governance were not born of compromise but of total efficiency. Resistance to their rule was now viewed as an archaic, futile notion, one that would be stamped out with swift, uncompromising force. Instead, the galaxy was reorganized into regions of influence, each one governed by a human-appointed leader. The once diverse cultures of the galaxy were reshaped to fit into this new vision, one where humanity's ideals of unity, control, and prosperity would reign supreme. But it was not just military might that had given humanity their victory. It was their unyielding commitment to unity, something none of the galaxy's civilizations had ever truly grasped. Where the Tylarians had divided their attention between scientific advancement and isolation, humanity had drawn strength from their ability to band together in the face of adversity. It was this unity, this unshakable collective will, that had given them the strength to overcome every obstacle. Humanity's reach now extended far beyond the borders of Earth, reaching into the very fabric of space itself. Their fleet had not just captured systems, they had rewritten the way the galaxy interacted with the universe. Energy manipulation, once the domain of only the most advanced races, had been harnessed by humans to its fullest extent. Gravitational fields, quantum flux, even the very fabric of space-time itself, all had been bent to humanity's will. The galaxy's infrastructure, its very way of life, was now intertwined with human technology. As each species bent to their will, humanity took another step forward in their grand vision. They established academies to teach the galaxy's populations how to operate within this new framework, humanity's framework. These academies were not just educational institutions, they were indoctrination centers, where the ideals of order, unity, and control were instilled in every race, in every mind. The galaxy's citizens learned quickly. Compliance with human law was not a choice. It was the only path forward. The final broadcast from humanity's Supreme Command came as a chilling reminder to all who still held memories of the galaxy's past. We are the architects of this new era. You will remember this day as the dawn of peace, the kind that only we can provide. Your old ways are gone. The galaxy is united. The future begins now. The broadcast ended, and for the first time, the galaxy understood what it meant to be ruled by humanity. The old empires, the old civilizations, all were swept away, replaced by a new, singular force that would dominate the stars for eons to come. As the last echoes of resistance faded into nothingness, the galaxy slowly began to adjust to its new reality. The stars still twinkled, their light now serving as a silent witness to humanity's rule. And with that, the last chapter in the galaxy's history had come to an end, ushering in an era of human dominance that would last for millennia. In the cold, silent expanse of space, humanity stood at the helm of the cosmos, their reign unchallenged and absolute. The galaxy had been reshaped, not through violence or destruction, but through a singular, unstoppable vision. And as the years passed, the question no longer seemed to matter. What would the galaxy look like under humanity's rule? The answer had already been written. It was humanity's galaxy now, and it always would be.